How many companies here have a mission statement? Virtually everybody. So ours is a little different. It's essentially be nice to everyone you meet, but also have a plan to kill them. I do this to show you how much information you have is at risk, and if I can steal any of that information, what I can do with it. You're going to get hacked. It happens to everybody. There's not a question anymore of if, it's when it's going to happen.
One of our great friends who's presenting for the 4th time at Integrity Summit has helped keep you and I safe. He's an author, just retired as Assistant FBI Special Agent in charge of Arizona, and now a consultant to the FBI and the NFL. Please welcome John Anarelli.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me out here today. Standing amongst these stuffed animal tigers, I feel like a G-rated version of Ziegfeld and Roy. But so by way of background, as Mr. Colangelo said, my name's John Anarelli. I was second in command of the FBI here in Arizona for about a number of years, but in Arizona for 10 years, I've worked as an FBI agent. Starting back in the day, I was a police officer, went to law school, got my law degree, became a lawyer and practiced law for a while, then joined the FBI. Those professions give me the distinction of 2 separate things. One, I clearly went from one hated profession to another, but number 2, every job I've had has required a degree of integrity. None of these jobs could be done without it. Now, in the FBI, for many, many years, I was in charge of the cyber program, all the computer hackings, businesses that could be attacked, such as your own businesses. We worked cases like Sony and the Target hack, which you all have heard of course. A little advice to the business people in the room: if you don't want your business attacked, don't name it Target. But other than that, however, working with cyber agents is a different world. If you've ever worked with cyber people, they can be a different breed. Now, they're very bright. I had people with their masters in computer science, doctorates in computer science, but they didn't necessarily have the social skills, if you will, that most people have that goes with the computer world. I like to describe myself as the only agent in the FBI that led other agents who have never kissed a girl. But I've left all that behind now, and I've recently retired from the FBI. I'm in the private sector, and I work primarily for the NFL. I handle security for the Arizona Cardinals on behalf of the NFL. I can't tell you what a relief it is to finally be in a profession that does not get negative publicity. So, with that, let's talk about integrity. And what I want to discuss is my experiences in the FBI personally, firsthand, and how integrity played a role. So the first thing to understand is with the FBI, of course, it stands for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but it's also our motto. It stands for fidelity, bravery, and the most important is integrity. Because you can have the first 2, but without the third, it means nothing at all. So how does integrity play into cases and things that the FBI do? Well, you may all remember the Oklahoma City bombing. This was the first major terrorist attack on U.S. soil that was domestic terrorism. This was a significant case for the FBI. There were 168 people killed that day, thousands of victims. The FBI, of our 12,000 agents, we put 1,400 agents on this case alone, which I was one of them. From that, we worked over 3 years building this case and running down every single lead. There were 43,000 leads to be covered. We conducted 28,000 interviews, spent 1 million man-hours working this case, checked 1 billion records to make sure we had the right people and everyone was in custody. Now, with all that going on, it was very easy if you wanted to slip away in the shadows and take some time off or do whatever you want to do. It was too big of a case for any one individual to manage and supervise anyone else. However, doing the job with integrity is what supports teamwork. In your business, if you're going to have teamwork, integrity has to be a key component of that. In the FBI, every agent operates informants. They can be regular business persons, or they may be criminals looking to solve a problem they've caused for themselves. I throw this picture up here because I had an informant whose code name was Elvis. And he was not the young, attractive Elvis, I will tell you that. So, now Elvis was helping me with a case involving police corruption. In a department where there were many, many fine officers, there were a few that were taking advantage. They were responding to burglaries in the middle of the night, stores that had been robbed, and when they arrived first, they'd help themselves to what they found, and then later work with a pawn shop to sell the stolen merchandise that they took, yet would report as being missing from the store. Elvis was working for the pawn shop. His job was to meet with all these people. I wired him up with a recorder. He was going to get the evidence that we needed. He was going to get everything on tape. People were going to be arrested and sent to prison. It was a big operation. The day this was all coming down, I briefed Elvis. We had maybe 30 agents watching the operation because we were ready to move in. Meanwhile, I also had a transmitter on Elvis so I could hear everything going on in case we had to rush in and save him. So Elvis goes walking into the pawn shop. I hear him talking on the way there. And then once he gets in and says hello, it suddenly gets very quiet. And we don't hear anything for the remainder of the time he's in the store. And I'm thinking of all times for the equipment to fail, now the time. Well, Elvis comes out an hour later, and he comes up to me, and he's real happy and smiling and telling me how good it was. And I break the news. I say, I'm very sorry. Apparently, there's an equipment failure. We didn't hear anything at all. And Elvis tells me, well, we weren't talking. I'm like, what do you mean you weren't talking? And Elvis, who probably is not the brightest person around, he told me that when he got there, he realized maybe other people were listening as well. So he decided to write everything down and pass notes back and forth. I explained to Elvis I was listening, and you missed the whole point of what you were supposed to do. So, the entire day wasted. I wasted a time of 30 agents. Who's responsible for that? Elvis? No, it's not Elvis, it's me. The buck stopped. Oops. There you go, Elvis. I have to be responsible for what I say. The reality is, I knew what I was dealing with. I wasn't dealing with the sharpest tool in the shed. I should have been more explicit, right down to the detail of what I wanted this person to do. It was my words that caused that day and cost that case and wasted other people's times. I own that. That's what integrity is about. Kidnapping. We work a lot of kidnappings in the FBI. I had many kidnapping cases in my career, but there's one case in particular that I think is important to talk about when it comes to integrity. So when you transfer in the FBI, and I was a brand new agent sent to my first office, inevitably there's a more senior agent leaving and you're replacing that person. You get a bunch of cases, and we often refer to them as old dog cases. Cases that people have worked for years and never solved. But in the FBI, we don't close a case until there's a resolution. So I inherited a kidnapping case involving a 4-year-old girl that had been taken 9 years ago. So this case obviously hadn't been solved. There was very little likelihood that it would ever be solved. And the agent who had this case was just sending paper to the file on a monthly basis, saying that he was aware of the case, no new leads. Well, I inherit this case, and instead of just pushing it along, I decide I'm going to throw myself into it. I get this case featured on a relatively new show called America's Most Wanted. We use brand new computer technology, and I get age enhancement pictures. And I get this case advertised. I get a bunch of leads, and I run all these leads down. Lo and behold, one of these leads proved to be true. After 9 years, I was able to locate this child who was now 13 and still alive. And I was able to arrest the person that actually kidnapped her and reunite this child with her family. Hard work and persistence is about integrity. I could have just sent paper to the file like everybody else did and assumed this case is not going out anywhere. I have other things to do. But looking at this case, knowing what my integrity was and my responsibility to it, it paid off in the end. 9/11. Nobody needs to tell you about 9/11. We all remember that. What I will tell you is the day of 9/11, we were criminal investigators. Everyone joined the FBI to respond to crimes, find the bad guys, and arrest them and bring them to justice. 9/11 changed the FBI forever. Now, suddenly we've been told our job is to find crimes before they occur, find out who terrorists are before they commit acts of terrorism. We are now intelligence agents instead of criminal agents. That's not what I joined the FBI to do. That's not what any of the agents of the FBI joined the FBI to do. But integrity is embracing change. The country needed us to do something, and we responded to it. I'm proud to say that the FBI, as a result, there has not been a single successful terrorist attack in the United States since 9/11. And because we embrace change, that will continue. Congressman Gifford shooting. Saturday morning, I'm at my house. It's about 10 o'clock, little after. I get a call from Washington, D.C. And I'm told there's a report of a congressman having been shot. I didn't know anything about this. I turn on the TV. I see the news reports. I jump in my Buick car, throwing on the clothes I was wearing the night before, and race down to Tucson. And literally, lights and sirens, I'm in Tucson within an hour and a half on scene. Done a lot in my law enforcement career. I will tell you this was one of the most dramatic looking scenes I've ever seen. Victims still out on the sidewalk because they were clearly deceased and evidence was being gathered. Only one victim had been transported from the scene. Scene was clearly secure with multiple law enforcement agencies and agents on the scene, so I went to our command post at the FBI office in Tucson. I worked through the day there and into the night, coordinating all the leads that had to be run down. Was there another shooter? Was there other people involved? Was this a conspiracy, perhaps domestic terrorism or international? Until we know those things, no one was going to stop and rest. That race down to Tucson turned into my being down there for 11 days with pretty much the clothes on my back. I was one of hundreds of people from the FBI who responded from around the country to help, and the agents here in Phoenix all going down there to work this case. No one let up. We spent 11 solid days, but there were many times that I wanted to go back and catch some sleep at my hotel room and things like that, or just take some time off, yet I was asking everybody else to do so much. There was so much work to be done and so few people to do it in the big picture. There was one time that we needed to go to the hospital where a victim was having surgery, and someone needed to go into the surgical room and collect the bullet as evidence to maintain that chain of custody. And with no one else around to do it, I went down there, grabbing a young agent, and went in myself and collected that. Me, the boss, but yet I'm doing the things that the street agent would do. Because integrity was also leading by example. I wanted people to see that I'm not going to make you do anything that I won't do myself. In sum, this is the case that I think brings it all together. It's an identity theft case, but it shows you a couple of things, that what you can do if you apply yourself, and maybe the moral of the story is sometimes God wants people to go to prison. So, I'm in the middle of my career, second office. I'm following up on a bank robbery that had happened days before, just going back to confirm interviews and facts. I'm talking to the assistant manager when the manager comes running over and says, "Sir, there's somebody in line in the bank trying to pass a rather large bad check at this moment." So I go over, I talk to the individual, I detain him, get his story, and quickly realize he's going to be taken into custody by me. So how did I know, and how did this guy get caught? This thief was going around town stealing mail out of mailboxes looking for checks. Don't put your mail in your mailbox waiting for the postman to pick it up. Thieves do that every day. So he finds a check, it's a utility check, and he takes that check and takes some acetone. Acetone will take the ink off the paper and yet not damage the paper. He rewrote that check to himself, made it for a large amount. It was a check drawn from a large bank branch, and he went around the city picking a branch at random so he could walk in and get the check cashed immediately. He walks in, he gets online, gets called up to a teller window at random. It happened to be the teller's check that he stole. Now, aside from the fact he clearly needs another profession, when you look at what are the odds that he would steal a check at random, pick a bank at random, get online at random, and go up to a random teller, and there's an FBI agent standing in the bank at that moment. Integrity, me being there and doing my job, prepared me for this opportunity. Everything I've done in my 20-some-odd years in law enforcement and before has been about integrity. I would not be standing up here today had I not conducted my work such. Everything I've done in the FBI applies to the business sector. All of you here today are models for integrity by the mere fact you're sitting here today. After today, I hope we can all go out and continue to carry the message so that others will try to emulate what you all are doing and which we have shown is the key to success. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.